Hey YouTube, it's G Lamb. Happy Friday. Thought I'd do something a little different today. I wanted to showcase my vintage Pokemon cards. I recently just organized them. I picked up a lot of these in a collection that I purchased recently as well. This is just going to be base set. I have plans for Jungle, Fossil, Rocket, and the subsequent expansions as well. But I got this nice binder. It's got 4 rows instead of 3, which I like a lot for storing Pokemon and Magic cards because of the rule differences between that and a game like Yu-Gi-Oh, where you can use 4 copies of each card instead of 3. It makes it a lot easier to store and organize your cards. So let's find out the fun way what we have in this binder. So I have them organized by collector number, which originally in the first few sets was rarity and then alphabet. So Alakazam being a holo rare, as well as starting with the letter A, is going to be the first card from base set. I do have a full play set of him, which is nice. He's pretty good. Blastoise, just the 1 copy. He's more on the expensive side. Blastoise is probably the best Stage 2 Pokemon from the original era, at least for the first few sets. He was the titular card in the Rain Dance archetype, which uses his ability to overflow the field with water energy and outpace your opponent with a full army of water type attackers. While they're trying to build up their bench and their attacking Pokemon, you can do so immediately with Blastoise and then kind of snowball the game from there. Chansey is another really iconic card. The highest hit points of any basic Pokemon and higher hit points than most of the fully evolved Pokemon. Blastoise, as you can see, only has 100. I think the highest Stage 2 is probably Charizard, which is another really iconic one. Got the Charizard here. He is from base set too, but it's the original Charizard. He's definitely the most overhyped card in the original set. 4 energy to deal 100 damage sounds like a lot, but then you have to discard 2 energy to use it, and it's really not worth building around. There's much more powerful cards, much more efficient. But, Charizard is the iconic Pokemon. Everybody knows Charizard, everybody knows Pikachu. You gotta have Charizard. Got a playset of Clefairy, Gyarados. I really like the art on this one as well. It's not the typical Pokemon style, but it's not like one of those claymation or like the 3D models. It's kind of its own art style, and there's not a lot of cards like it. Hitmonchan is probably the best basic Pokemon, I would say, at least out of base set. He's the centerpiece of the Haymaker archetype, which uses big basics, basically any basic Pokemon that doesn't evolve, with high hit points. 70 HP is pretty good on a big basic. Its jab attack for 1 energy does 20 damage, which was the highest rate you could get for 1 energy and no setup. A lot of the times, if your opponent would start with a normal type Pokemon that would be weak to fighting, and you're going first, you can attach 1 energy to Hitmonchan, knock out their basic, and if that's their only Pokemon, you won the game on the first turn. Haymaker is probably, it was considered for a long time the best deck from the original era. I would say in base set only, I would have to agree. As you move on to Jungle and Fossil in the later expansions, I don't think it would necessarily be the best deck. I don't think it's ever fallen from tier 1 grace, but I don't think it's not tier 0. I don't think it's the definitive best deck. There's just so many options. The expanded card pool, especially once you hit something like Fossil, every Pokemon is included. There's all different types of strategies, all different styles of cards that you can use. There's a lot of videos talking about, in retrospect, Haymaker really isn't as good as all the hype built it up to be. It's definitely a powerful deck, but it's not the end-all be-all of competitive Pokemon, for sure. This Machamp is pretty iconic as well. They're almost all first edition, to my knowledge. They came in a starter deck that had like a CD-ROM, and I remember putting it in my computer and playing it, and some kind of 3D girl teaching you how to play Pokemon, and she used a Machamp, and a lot of nostalgia there. Magneton's pretty cool. I like the art on this one as well, the 3D effect. The Magnemite in the same set looks with a similar art style, which is something that I really appreciate about, especially the older cards. It seems like the entire line, for the most part, of Evolution will use the same artist and the same art style to showcase the whole Pokemon evolution. We've got Mewtwo. This Mewtwo is really good. He actually had a whole deck built around him with his barrier attack. You use 2 energy, and then you discard one of them, and then it prevents all effects of your opponent's attack next turn. So your entire deck would be Mewtwo, and the rest would be psychic energies. And as you're mulliganing to find your one basic Pokemon, your opponent is drawing more and more cards. And eventually you hit the Mewtwo, and you just continuously use the barrier and deck your opponent out. It's fun to imagine that, you know, especially these games that were initially designed for children can have these complex strategies, and you know, the ability to take advantage of game mechanics in such a way is really interesting. It's not fun from a gameplay perspective. I specifically am much more a fan of interaction and long and grindy games, but it's cool to see the innovation, for sure. I like the Nidoking, the classic Ken Sugimori art. He pairs really well with the Nidoqueen, who was printed in the next set, Jungle. She has a boyfriend's attack, which gets more powerful for each Nidoking on your bench. Which the older cards did a lot of that. I don't want to say gimmicky, but a lot of the kind of fun attacks. You know, they really had fun with it. You got Ninetales down here. I like the Will-O-Wisps and the artwork there. Very sharp. Poliwrath. And we got Raichu, Venusaur, one of my absolute favorite Pokemon. Very happy to have these. Venusaur was also the centerpiece of a lot of Stage 2 decks. Not nearly as good as Blastoise, and not nearly as hyped up as Charizard. But Venusaur would actually work in tandem with Charizard. Venusaur's energy trans ability lets you move any energy for grass energy around to your Pokemon as you see fit. And Charizard's ability lets you turn any energy attached to it to fire energy. So you could stack all your energies on your various Pokemon, and then when you have your Charizard ready for battle, you could move all the energies to him, they become fire energy, and you can start hitting out that 100 damage. This is just a placeholder right now. This is the original Zapdos printing, which was, I thought, an odd choice. The included Zapdos in the base set, but only Zapdos. They didn't include Articuno or Moltres. The eventually would be printed in the Fossil expansion along with another Zapdos. Beedrill here, he was popular in Suicide Beedrill decks, was the name of that archetype. We've got Dragonair, Dugtrio. The Earthquake attack does 10 damage to each of your benched Pokemon, which I think is a fun little kind of a drawback. 4 energy for 70 is a very good rate. Typically 1 energy for 20 damage and 3 energy for 50 damage were the gold standards of efficiency for energy to damage output. So 4 for 70 is definitely up there. And the drawback makes sense, and it ties in well to the video games. You know, Earthquake is gonna hit everything. Especially if a Pokemon is used Dig or Dive and they're underground, the Earthquake will knock them out instantly. The Electabuzz here is not the original from base set. It's a reprint from XY Evolutions, but it's functionally the same. So I put this in here kind of as a placeholder. Electabuzz is one of my favorite Pokemon, and I love the artwork. I can't believe he did not get a foil treatment. But something's just so iconic about the black with the lightning, and Electabuzz makes a really good addition to the Haymaker deck as well. Pairs with Hitmonchan. He's also weak to fighting, so Hitmonchan was a good counter to Electabuzz. We have Electrode as well. We got Pidgeotto, Arcanine, Charmeleon. Arcanine and Charmeleon were both just as good, if not slightly better than Ninetales. And a lot of retro channels will showcase budget decks using these cards because they're just uncommons and they're a lot easier to get than like a holographic Ninetales. But Ninetales was a more popular Pokemon at the time. Ninetales was a holographic where these weren't. So Ninetales, despite being not better, overshadowed these Pokemon. This is another placeholder. This should be Dugong, I believe. We've got Dratini down here. We have Farfetch'd, who was kind of the third piece of the Haymaker puzzle for base set. This, in conjunction with Electabuzz and Hitmonchan, kind of had this rock, paper, scissors game, albeit unbalanced. Hitmonchan would dish out the damage quickly, and it's a fighting type, so it would be super effective against the Electabuzz. Electabuzz, also dishing out damage pretty efficiently, was super effective against Farfetch'd, as you can see from the lightning weakness. And Farfetch'd had a resistance to fighting, so that would be kind of the counter to the Hitmonchan, and they kind of formed this rock, paper, scissors. They were the three main centerpiece Pokemon in the original Haymaker. As the additional expansions were printed, you would see stuff like Scyther, you'd see stuff like Magmar. Lickitung from Jungle became arguably one of the best Pokemon, and definitely the most underrated Pokemon. That one was definitely one that slipped through the cracks and was discovered in a more retrospective way. We got the Growlithe here for the Arcanine. We've got Haunter. Both Ghastly and Haunter were printed in base set with this really cool 3D, almost like an N64 game. I really like the art on this one. Very iconic. You can just see your buddy's living room carpet around this. There was no Gengar in the original set. Gengar, another copy of Ghastly, and actually a foil Haunter would be printed in Fossil. We've got Ivysaur here. We've got Jinx. We've got Kadabra. Not many cards have actually been printed for Kadabra. His name in, I believe, another language is the name of a famous magician. And there was a big lawsuit regarding that. So Pokemon wasn't allowed to print any cards featuring Kadabra on them, which would highly restrict the amount of Abras and Alakazams that they could print. With the newer sets having Pokemon that would normally be an evolved Pokemon but can start out immediately as a basic, like an EX Pokemon or a Pokemon V, that allows them to skirt that rule and they can just print the Alakazams, which is what they've been doing. I believe it's been resolved and they can now print Kadabra cards again, which is going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to the next Kadabra card. We've got Kakuna here. I really like the 3D artwork on this. Very reminiscent of, just like the Haunter, the N64 games. A lot of memories of running through Viridian Forest and running away from Kakunas. We got Machoke here to pair well with that Machamp. Got the Magikarp here and Magmar. Also from the Evolution set. These are just placeholders for now. I really like the artwork on the Magikarp. It looks so realistic Like if you didn't know that this was a Pokemon and you just had this as a painting in somebody's office or their living room, I think it would be a really cool piece of art. If you look closely, there's a worm on that hook, kind of showcasing a more realistic tone to the background of the Pokemon world, which is what a lot of the original cards did in their artwork. Especially the trainer cards really painted this vivid reality of the Pokemon universe. Magmar's another popular one, often compared to Electabuzz. They're sort of rivals. You find Magmar in one copy of the game. I think Magmar was in blue, and then Electabuzz was in red. Got Nidorino here, Poliwhirl, Porygon. Porygon's a cool Pokemon. Wasn't very popular. A lot of the popularity of various cards and Pokemon came from the anime. The episode with Porygon, the Ash and the team go into some kind of a computer world with Porygon, and there's all these different missiles and laser beams and such from Team Rocket, and they were having issues in Japan causing seizures, so that episode was never dubbed and it never made it to the States. We got Raticate here. I like Raticate a lot, mostly because of the mystery. It's interesting to see the weird kind of gameplay mechanics that they have on the older cards. There's another placeholder. This should be Sandslash, I believe. And we've got Wartortle. We got Abra here. We got Bulbasaur, obviously the best Gen 1 starter. We all know this. Got Caterpie. Charmander. I like the art on Charmander as well. He's got his flame on his tail, has to be lit. And he's accidentally causing some forest fires there. I like the Diglett, I like the flowers, I like the kind of CGI effects. Doduo's pretty good as well. Was not as popular as Farfetch'd, but was used a lot as an alternative in Haymaker. He is weak to lightning, and he is resistant to fighting, which is part of that rock, paper, scissors trio. His damage is not as efficient, but he does have a free retreat cost, so he was sort of a pseudo Scyther before Scyther would be printed in Jungle, set after. Got Drowsy. Here's the Ghastly in some kind of like a creepy alleyway with like graffiti on the walls. We got Coughing here. We got Machop lifting this big old boulder. I got Magnemite, the same art style as the Magneton, like I was talking about earlier. We've got Metapod. We got two Metapods, just like the classic battle against the Samurai Kid. Got Nidoran. We've got Onyx. I like Onyx a lot. He could certainly be another big basic. He's got 90 hit points, which was more than most of the big basics. 70 was usually the pretty on par rate. His damage output was not very high, which I think is what kind of kept him from the limelight, but definitely something to consider if you're building decks and playing around. Got Pidgey here. Trusty old Pidgey. Any game with a Pidgey, you gotta get Pidgey. Pikachu, definitely the most iconic Pokemon of all time. Pokemon's mascot. He sees the Macy's Day Parade every year. Pokemon was actually going to use Clefairy as their mascot and changed at the last second to Pikachu. And I think if we lived in a world where Clefairy was the Pokemon everyone was supposed to know instead of Pikachu, we would not be talking about Pokemon right now. But it's fun to think about that kind of, what reality would that be? Got Poliwag, got Ponyta. I never used a Ponyta in the video games until my first run of Diamond, because the only fire types you can get are Chimchar, the starter, and Ponyta. They did fix that in Platinum, and I'm hoping that they're going to include those additions in the remakes for the Switch, but we'll have to see. Rattata was used a little bit for 1 energy and 20 damage. Was on par rate with the Hitmonchan. It only had 30 hit points, and it didn't hit anything for weakness. But it was good, mainly later on, as a counter to Ditto. Whenever you play a Ditto from Fossil, it becomes a copy of your opponent's Pokemon. So you would bring out the Rattata, Ditto would become a Rattata, you would use a plus power, and then knock out the Ditto, and grab a prize card. Rattata was probably going to get knocked out the following turn, but it helps you win the race, which is what a lot of the Pokemon TCG is about. Got the Sandshrew here, we got the Squirtle shooting off his bubbles. We've got Starmie and Staryu, Tangela, Voltorb, Vulpix, Weedle. And moving on to the trainer cards, we've got Clefairy Doll, Computer Search. Technology was really showcased, I feel like, especially in the older games, which was a big trend in late 90s and early 2000s media anyway. But, you know, the whole, like, look at that layout on the computer. I mean, the Pokeball's hooked up to it. Clearly there's some kind of technology going on if they're looking for Pokemon, if they're uploading their Pokemon, if they're organizing their boxes, or withdrawing a Pokemon, or sending it to Professor Oak, or what have you. Got De-Evolution Spray, Imposter Professor Oak, Item Finder. We got Lass. I like seeing, especially nowadays, the supporters that have the characters, like the NPCs from the game, you know, like a Bug Catcher, or a Fossil Maniac, or a Pokemon Collector, or a Lass, or a Youngster. You know, it really kind of helps you emulate the Pokemon games in the Pokemon world. Got Pokemon Breeder. I love the art on this guy. It paints such a picture. I mean, look at the sky, and then you've got the hills in the background. You can see those are kind of blurry, but they're trees. But he's dressed up like a typical Japanese farmer. He's got the straw hat. He's got the hoe. He's got the bucket of Pokeballs. Very cool. This would later become rare candy. Same with Pokemon Trader. This is basically just very cool. I like the suit. He's got a Farfetch'd. This would become Pokemon Communication later on. Scoop Up. I like the art on this one a lot. That Weedle is just, he's not here for it. Super Energy Removal, Defender, and Energy Retrieval also really help to paint kind of this picture of like the Pokemon universe. I, especially as a kid, never used the X Defender or the X Attack items, but this brings them to reality. You can see that these are, you know, a thing that somebody in the Pokemon universe would use. I like the Super Energy Removal has all these blips. Same with the Energy Retrieval with the energy symbols. Yeah, Full Heal, Maintenance, like you're literally maintaining a Pokeball. Plus Power, same as the Defender. This was a really good one. A lot of decks ran 4 copies of this. Pokemon Center, you can really see it. You know, it's the tray with the Nurse Joy putting the Pokeballs in. Pokemon Flute, you'd have to get at the top of Lavender Tower after rescuing Mr. Fuji. You got the Pokédex. There's actually an entry, it is Diglett from the original games. We have Professor Oak. You can see him, he's definitely a professor. I mean, you can see that stern expression, you can see the lab coat, you can see he's reading a book. He's against some kind of like a cement wall. Got the revives. Super Potion, I always thought this was some kind of like a duck or something as a kid. I didn't really understand it. Bill, again, you know, he's got like a polo shirt on, which was definitely popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. He's got the messy hair, he's got the Pokeball, he's got the grin on his face, he's hanging out against a brick wall. You know, there's probably a Game Boy in his pocket. Got another energy removal. Gust of Wind, that same Weedle is just getting swept around. And we got Potion and Switch. And then the only special energy they printed in the original set was Double Colorless, which either we'll see play currently if it's legal in the standard format, or will be printed as some kind of a watered down version. We have Twin Energy right now, which does not attach to V's or GX Pokemon, but still adds the 2 energy. But this is most of base set. You know, there's a couple placeholders in here that we talked about, but my goal is going to be to get a playset of each card and start building some decks and start showing them off on the channel. Maybe get some gameplay in. We're going to be moving on to Jungle and Fossil as well. But I like a lot of the old cards. They definitely evoke a lot of nostalgia. It's cool to see some of the minor points on the different artworks, and especially as a child, you will fill in the gaps in your own brain of what you don't understand. And then you can look back at it as an adult and see, okay, well, you know, I remember this from this, and you know, how accurate was that? How inaccurate was that? I don't think anybody, you know, especially in my friend group, knew how to play Pokemon. I don't remember buying Pokemon cards. I've got fond memories of purchasing, you know, my first Yu-Gi-Oh cards, or a lot of different Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And I never really remember buying Pokemon cards. I just remember having them. But I thought this was interesting. I like the older cards. If you like the older cards, definitely let me know. I can post more collection content. I do want to post the rest of the expansions as well. If you have a favorite Pokemon, leave it in the comment section. If there's more content you want to see or don't want to see, post that in the comment section. If you like the video, give it a like. And if you want to see more content, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.